Okay, welcome back to the M.a.N podcast. My name is Thomas. I am the lead host, listener, talker, speaker, whatever. I'm going to probably listen a lot more than talk. And Gavin, I'm hoping you like talking, so I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on. I'll be honest with everybody. I think Gavin, it was maybe about a month, 6 weeks ago. I started following you. I seen you'd said something, and I definitely want to dive into this, so I'll come back to it. I haven't been following for a long, long time. I have watched and seen pretty much everything every day because you know how the algorithm works. And I love the way that you're pushing yourself. I love the way that you've switched direction from. I guess it would be going viral. Yeah. I honestly I got the utmost respect for that. I'm someone I've done social media 7 years and I've posted twice a day for most of that time. I've never had a viral video. I've just tried to help people. And honestly, when you posted that, I thought you were bullshitting. And I actually thought you were trying to create a viral video by saying you weren't going viral. But I'm looking forward to get to know you. I'm looking forward to chatting. I'm looking forward to hearing some of your perceptions, your thoughts on things. And I'm really hoping that we can kind of get a juicy kind of conversation. But Gavin, if you could tell us
I think we will.
Gavin, brilliant.
What did you follow me off of then? Because I thought you followed me from ages ago. I thought my content recently hasn't been very controversial, or it has been very me. So, I think you said something like, "I thought," you came in my DMs and went, "I thought you were a dick," and I was like, "A few people do think that, so I just thought you were one of them people." And then you read on, you were like, "But actually," and I was like, "Oh, this is unusual." Usually, it just ends there.
Well,
and I'm like, "Cool."
I'd seen you'd posted a few things saying that like you've had to like block other PTs, like you've been getting shit. And I think the video that had cropped up was one of the ones when I think you'd said something like, I've had viral content and I've decided to stop chasing that and I'm going to pursue my own message and I'm going to help people. And I was like, this guy's full of it. He's definitely saying this to get people to watch, and it's going to be like that reverse psychology thing. You know how people who say like, oh, don't trust my brand because of...
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason you can trust me is that it's not going viral.
And
Right, so that's absolutely not what's happening.
And anybody that is listening, I can remember when you said it, and I was like, bullshit. And I actually checked on your reels, and I scrolled back through views. Like, you still get a lot, and you've got a big following. And like the content that you produce. This is the thing that blows my mind, right? The content that you're producing is of such a high caliber. Like, it's nicely edited, beautifully lit. Like, the value that you're providing it's helpful, but for some reason Instagram doesn't favor that and push it on or try and like promote you.
Well, a lot of that's to do with it's anti the message from the following I've previously got.
Okay.
So like I'm losing followers by the day, which is a good thing because a lot of them have came from like fat loss content. And yeah, like you know yourself, when you come into PTing or even making content, it's the wild, wild west. So I think sometimes the content I made at the start that did get me a following, some of that, and this is why I don't actually I don't actually like really dislike a lot of people that are making that kind of content. I think a lot of these people, including myself, fall into it because they're trying everything. Then they go, oh, this works, and it happens to be fat lossy stuff, and then they just keep going with what is quote unquote working. So it's half the person and half the algorithm. I think you have to be highly, highly self-aware before, like, if you sent me back 5 years ago and I started making the content again, I would do the same thing probably. It's only now, like, you need to experience it to know that it's wrong or know that it's ethically not great. Because I think the reason I'll have an experience that nobody else, unless they're in a similar position, will understand. Because from the outside in, you'll have comments going, oh, this is working for me, you're helping me so much. But it's in my DMs that I noticed that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah, so
I guess we've kind of like leapfrogged the whole thing. Like, Gavin, do you want to give a bit of an introduction and like tell us all a little bit about yourself? And
yeah, why not? I suppose I just went. I guess that's just what's on my mind these days, and I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about work all the time.
Yeah.
So a general introduction to myself. So I've done every single job on the planet, I reckon. I'm one of those people that couldn't hold down a job for like 6 months. I've done everything. My first job out of school was the Tunnocks factory. Well, actually, it was my second, but that was the main one. So I'm from Uddingston, so that's where the Tunnocks factory is. Then I've done phone sales. I've done uh, I've worked in a pharmacy, I've worked in hospitality, and then also for 9 years I've done a sport called freestyle football. So I used to busk on Buchanan Street in Glasgow and stuff. Then I actually got some pretty good gigs out of that. Like I went to the Champions League final, didn't perform at it, but performed at an event before it. But I used to tell all the kids I was on the pitch and all that. It was pure shite. Um, so I'd done that for ages, lived off of that for like 2 years. So I'd been self-employed. This is like, I'm like 21, so I might have made like 18 grand and lived at home. So I lived off of it. But that was, for me, that was good enough to like scrape by doing something like that. So I had a wee bit of experience with like social media and stuff. From really early on, I've been editing videos and stuff since I was like 14. I just enjoyed doing it. I used to make like videos of Ronaldo. I think there's a video of Ronaldo that I made that's got like 1.5 million views. Obviously, it's not to do with me. It's because it's Ronaldo. But that I've been doing stuff like that for a long, long time. And then when I was about 23, I got into the gym. Maybe a year after quitting that, and it was kind of just before I went to Australia, so it would have been very much aesthetic based. I started tracking my food and stuff then. And then when I came home from Australia at 25, I knew for 2 years before I done it that I was going to become a PT, but that was when I started deciding that was what I was going to do. So I was like, I'm 29 now, approaching that 30 mark. So that's how I've got here.
So I actually did look back on your Instagram, and I seen the freestyle and stuff, and I wasn't sure if you would bring it up. But that must have been cool as anything. Like when I seen it, I was like, whoa.
It's cool and virginy at the same time. Like it's the people that do that sport, mate, are the strangest people you've ever met. Like I think I done it because I was an only child, but like, yeah, like really, 90% of them are really, really, really weird. So that's what I met like people from all over the world doing that. So like at 18, even though I was going out all the time in Glasgow and stuff, I was also like going to Prague for a World Championships, getting nowhere near winning it, but meeting all of these people from all over the world and stuff. So it was quite cool that way.
Yeah, that is. I think it's very cool. And again, I didn't think you were going to touch on it, and I was gonna just like ask a cheeky question later on, being like, "Oh, how many keep-ups can you do?"
I don't usually, but I think now I've got a girlfriend that I realise that I can put women off me now.
Yeah, you're safe now.
It's fine, because it used to repel women like nothing else.
Oh man, give me a second. Oh, that's unbelievable. Okay, so you mentioned.
I knew I was going to be in a weird mood because I've just done that run. You know when you like fully push yourself and your brain's gone. So just up for talking utter shit.
Mate, that's what I want this place. That's what I want this to be.
Yeah.
Just nonsense. So pre-Australia, you started training a little bit, and the main goal was aesthetics.
Yeah, I'd always like went to the gym, but I would only last like 6 weeks, and I understood progressive overload and all that, and I would do it for a while. But that was the first time. I think it was the first time I'd had an actual program. I don't know if you know who Kino Body is, Gregor Gallagher.
I've heard that name. I've definitely heard that name.
Yeah, like a big Canadian guy who does all those cringy videos in front of Lamborghinis and stuff. It was one of his stupid programs that I bought. And I think I was coming off the back of a breakup not long before. And I think that was just one of the things that got me out of my head with the breakup.
Yeah.
So I think it was more that was my, like, it wasn't that I didn't go to the gym before and this was the first ever time and I hadn't had any consistency ever. I think I just liked it. I was starting to come home and think about, oh, I think I can do this the next time I go in if I rest and stuff. And I was getting excited about it and it was taking my head off the breakup. I think that's why I got into it.
Yeah. So your content now, and honestly, I've just done a post actually, and I've just tagged you in it, and I'm hoping people go and have a look. like a lot of your content now is you want beginners. You want people that are complete, starting from scratch. Can you talk about like what's transitioned from like having that like kind of love, let's say, when you were in Australia for physique development, doing your own training? Because as PTs, once we experience that and we realise how good we can feel, and we realise that like a little bit of a physique change does make you feel better, you kind of want to push your clients that way, don't you?
Yeah. I think that happens a lot just in general with anything you get interested in. If you start training CrossFit, next thing you know, your clients are like it's very like that, isn't it? I've never got in ridiculously good shape though. Like I've got strong and I've also got lean, but I've never got both at the same time. Like when I got really, really strong and then never dieted down much after that. And now I've started running for a year, so I've pretty much fucking threw all of those out of the window. But every sort of year I'll do something different. But I kind of like learning new skills. So when I got really strong, it was 5-3-1, the sort of strength building program that I done.
Yeah.
Because I kind of lacked like squatting and deadlifting sort of strength, and then that went through the roof. So although it was for like when I first started training, it maybe was for aesthetics. I still was more. It was the lifts going up that I was enjoying the most, and it was sort of changing how I looked. But I the first 2 years I didn't ever bulk, or I was still afraid of calories because of I was overweight when I was younger. So I didn't ever get. I always kept on getting to like 70 kilos on the bench for 8, and I could never get past it because I refused to eat more. And then, so I've never dieted down once I've got stronger. So the reason I work with beginners is because that's who I enjoyed working with the most. Like I there's something about someone who really can't move much at all. Like people who you come in and they can only get like an inch of a squat. I like working with those people.
The problem solving side.
Yeah. I just liked that. Like as soon as I went in, so for the first year I was only online, and then when I went in person, that was what I just naturally gravitated towards. And then the other caveat to that is when you're not massive and ripped, people don't come to you that want to get massive and ripped.
Yeah, it's.
Do you know what I mean? So there's half of it like I can't. That would be dumb marketing from me as well.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Like beginners have always been my favorite thing as well. Like.
Right.
Like when I started coaching, like my coaching philosophy was like, and it's cheesy, but I still stand by it. Like I can't change your body in an hour, but I could change your life. And like back when I was 21, I was diagnosed with depression. The doctor said to me, right, get back to exercise. And I started exercising again, and I can remember just like feeling great, like really fast. And that's what made me decide to become a personal trainer. I was like, right, I'm gonna try and make exercise cool for other people so they want to do it, and then once they try it, I'm going to show them that they can enjoy it, and then they'll stick with it. I've just kind of landed myself into this position of like bodybuilding now, but I still don't call myself a bodybuilder, if that makes sense as well.
Right. It's mad, isn't it, though, because what was I going to say? Because you don't expect that's who you're going to like training. I thought I was going to want to train people that were overweight, like insecure guys, because that's where I came from. But actually, it's been more just I attracted women mostly at the start, but that was more due to like attacking Slimming World and stuff. Terrible idea if you want to not lose your mind, by the way, working with that crowd all the time. But anyone, any age group, just beginners in the gym.
Yeah.
Like I've had 18-year-olds that like my gran could squat better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they come in, and I've still really liked training them.
Do you know? So, and again, this is my focus kind of shifted towards fat loss just purely on like I just liked the physiology side of it. I liked that there was almost all these slimming clubs, and they were fucking it up. Like they were getting it wrong, and I was like, right, well, I want to know how it actually works. And then what I was finding is I was getting the beginners that didn't know how to use the gym, but they purely wanted to come to me for fat loss. I would then improve their squat, get them deadlifting, maybe even teach them how to do a pull-up. But did you ever, or have you ever used like video to show people like how much they've improved? because an issue I used to have is like people would get so much better in the gym, but then they would feed back to me being like, oh, but I've only dropped like 3 or 4 pounds.
Yeah, I think that all comes back to when you're in person. I don't know where you got those clients from, if they're people in the gym, but now every year that sort of goes by, the clients I get are like more the ones I want to work with, but it's because they've probably followed me for years and they come from social media. Because I never got clients from the gym floor ever, because my first gym that I worked in, it was dead. So it was all people that followed me that just happened to be within distance of there. And then the one I work in now is a studio, so again, it's all people from socials that come in, and maybe because even like when I get referrals, I'll get what you're talking about, even if it's like their misses, but they've not followed me, so they don't know what I'm about. So it's the classic, want the scale move. I do notice that, when it's like someone that doesn't know me at all, or their friend has referred them, I'll get the same shit. But I've always filmed people, I've always filmed like their first 3 sessions, and then if they're online with me, the biggest thing I do is form videos. So the good thing about when they do that is I don't even need to show them it back. They're watching it constantly, so they actually see it themselves. Does that like that? So I think I'm on a big hype. I don't know if you've probably noticed that I'm trying not to do transformations, and that's the way things I'm trying to show. Way harder, but that's where the way I want to go down things. It takes way longer, so much more thought into the videos, because nobody wants to just see your client remaining deadlifting shite then good. But I'm getting there. I'm figuring it out.
No, honestly, the busiest I've ever been, I shared a transformation every night. Busiest I've ever been. I got unbelievable amount of inquiries. Like, it was like every morning I was waking up and it was taking me so long to reply to inquiries that I was like, it was impacting my coaching. Like, but it was every night, and I just kept like having to say to people, because what I was finding actually is people were feeding back to me, and they're like, how come I don't look like such and such yet? How come I've not lost as much fat as? And I was like, you're on a total different journey. Like similar to you, I wanted to stop doing transformations, but I think I'm still probably in the category of like fat loss coach. And this is why I really wanted you to come on tonight, and I wanted to talk a little bit about like that space. Like, do you still think there is space in the fitness industry for things like, and I know you slag them off, like photo shoots? Do you think there's still space for? And again, mate, I'm like, I want you. I know what you're kind of like, so I'm really excited to hear the kind of thing you have to say about this.
It really depends, doesn't it? Because the ones that are, who's at it.
Yeah.
Like, I can see through it, like, straight away. And, like, I think if you're bodybuilding and stuff, then, sweet. But, as soon as you start going down Gen Pop and it's photo shoots, I personally think it's a no-go. And that's what most of these things are doing. And, like, Gen Pop are attracted to it. So if you're going to do photo shoots, then you're going to attract people that shouldn't be doing it. And, like, I read a post from people that are doing photo shoots, and they were talking about, like, this is how toxic it is, like, talking about how, like, you doing a photo shoot won't affect your mental health. It'll make you more, what was it? Like, it'll give you more resilience and all this. And I'm just like, that's bollocks, but like, that's utter bollocks.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly getting clients off the back of these photo shoots that are completely fucked. And then the thing that annoys me the most about it is they'll be like, but we haven't had any people have bad experiences. I'm like, yeah, but they don't tell you they had a bad experience, do they? Yeah. They never want to speak to you ever again. And at the time they'll tell you they've had a good experience, because fucking obviously when they're shredded, they're going to tell you, oh, that was great. But it's after the fact, and people don't hear about it. It's the same way with anything, but you feel shame about anything. It's not, you don't go and complain about it or tell the person about it. So it's complete bollocks. It's just them feeding their own narrative so that they can continue to do it.
100%. 100%. And like, I'll be completely honest. Every time I've dieted, I've had the spell post-show. I've done a couple of photo shoots. But this is the thing. I don't share them all the time. It's not my content. It's just, I've done it to prove to myself I could do it. And that was like it. And people could be like, oh, well, there's other things you could do. For some reason, that's what I was drawn to, and that's what I've done. But whenever I have someone that comes on that's like, I want to do a photo shoot or I want to get ripped, I have to like explain to them, like, the dieting part's going to be probably the easiest bit. It's after we finish. And I need you to commit to me for like 8 weeks at least after, so we can get you somewhat normal again. Because you're fried. Like, you are absolutely fried. Your relationship with food's diabolical. And when you don't have that big goal, you're like, well, I don't give a shit. You actually feel a bit depressed. Like, it's horrendous. Like, post this. And I think that a lot of coaches don't ever tell anybody that like the aftermath after these things is horrendous. And as a coach myself, I've had a few people, and if they're listening, I can only apologize. And like, I've had a few people that have come to me, they're like, I want to do an extreme diet, I want to lose a heap of weight. I get them to do it, I see them 6 months later, and they're bigger than when they started with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even through, like, and you'll know yourself, and you'll probably agree, like, you're trying to constantly educate people. Like, look, this can work, but this can also work. This happens, but this might also happen. Like, you're constantly trying to show that and share it. You're constantly trying to get people to understand all, like, the basic things that we learned, like energy balance. You still try and explain what a calorie deficit is, what maintenance is. Like, you're constantly trying to do it. But if you push someone in the wrong direction, they're just going to go off the edge of a cliff. And I don't know if you've seen or heard many people talking about that, but it's brutal.
Like, say, well, I've experienced, I've not dieted as hard as you, but I've dieted hard enough to give myself bad experiences. But I don't know if you need to hear this, but I don't need you to like explain to me like you've done toxic things, because so have I.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you're talking openly about it. Like, I'll talk openly about it. Like, I can't sit here and say I'm the fucking ethical god, can I? Because I've done stuff I really don't agree with. Like, stuff that I cringe so bad at, stuff I done like 2 or 3 years ago. I'll think back about like advice I've gave clients, and now I'll go, that was horrendous. That was really bad.
Yeah.
But obviously you're still learning, and you have to do it. You have to do those things to learn. But like, when I dieted, I lost about. Well, I went on my bodybuilding coach. You'll probably know who this is. Like, if I tell you off air, like, you'll know who it is.
Yep.
But I wanted to get strong. Like, this is my first year of PTing, and they were like, "Well, we need diet first, yada yada yada." I put on a bit of lockdown weight, which was fair. But I don't know what you're like, but I'm against when you're like, even though I'd been training for 2 years, I still had never done a bulk, mate. There was still so much strength for me to get from not having to like do cut bulk like ridiculous amounts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just get me tiny bit of a increase in calories. I would have been gaining strength. I would have been fine. It doesn't need to be this whole crazy thing. But anyway, he was like, right, we have to get you really lean first. And he dieted me for 18 weeks. And I lost 13 kilos. I went from 85 to 72. Now I'm like 5'11". I'm not got a small frame or anything. 72, I looked like an actual junkie. Like, I looked horrendous. But I kept on saying I'm through the full time, because I moved to London in the middle of it and all this. I was like, mate, I'm starving. Like, I'm actually, like, even 8 weeks in, I was like, I'm so hungry. And like, I've got clients and I can't get back to them and all this. And he just kept dieting me. And then it got to the point where, at that point, see if you'd have done that to me like 7 years ago, eating disorder, 100%. But I was actually all right. I didn't really care that much. But I was starting to get eating disorder like symptoms. There was like a couple of foods that were, like, I was eating hex sausages all the time. Couldn't look one of them in the eye for 2 years. I couldn't go near broccoli. Couldn't go near boiled potatoes. Fuck me. 2 or 3 years before I ate one of them again, just because you're eating the same sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was all just because he needed me to get lean before I got strong. I didn't want to do it the full time. See, 7 or 8 kilos, right? I could have, but it was like the last 8 weeks was just literally destroyed me, and it took me like 3 months to recover. And I'm like, what was the point in this? How can I get any stronger when you've just fucked me up?
Yeah. I think it's brutal as well, and maybe this is what happened to you, Gavin. Like, there's PTs, coaches, whatever they want to call themselves. Like, they've got so much like fame, let's call it, and clout behind their name, that when you're on board with them, you see people being like, right, well, I'm just going to do everything they say because it must be right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like, there's times I've seen, like, similar to you, like, someone comes in for a certain goal, and this person's like, no, this is what we do here. This is, you're part of my camp now. You're part of my tribe, or whatever they want to call it. Like they're saying that, and then these people put this additional pressure on themselves to do what this person wants. It's not what they want, but they feel like they're going to cock it up. That person will be able to just say to them, no, you're wrong. You've got it wrong. And I think that's, like, I guess going to lead kind of into my question of, like, what do you think are some of the, like, worst things just now about the industry?
Oh, I think I feel like it got a wee bit better for like a year or two, and then short form has just completely fucked up again. And I don't, I do think we're probably going down a dark route of it just being all about fat loss and aesthetics again. Um, I feel like it's getting worse again. And if I'm honest, I'm quite cynical about these things. I can't exactly see it just randomly getting better. There is like people that are like coaches that are like decent on social media that are kind of challenging narratives and stuff. And I do think it does break things down for people and it does eventually have an effect. But overall, will it have an effect? Nah, because I made a video today, like where I was standing behind chocolate, and because they do this video where you say
Yeah.
you eat this amount of chocolate and you gain a pound of fat and stuff, and I would love to just create a new account and just make 40 of those videos that I know will get views and just show people how easy it is and just show people that like this is just like me making the same video over and over again, and it's just playing to the algorithm that helps nobody. Like
Yeah.
because I've said before, I gained the most amount of following when I knew the least.
Oh, really?
Just
You
playing to
just.
what. Well, when I first went, I had 200,000 followers on TikTok 6 months into coaching,
Whoa.
and
Whoa.
I knew at the time I shouldn't have had it. Like
Yeah.
I got anxiety about that. Do you know what I mean? Like before you know, like one video game made 80,000. Before you know it, you've got more than you wanted. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? At the same time, you like once you're there, you're there.
So this is like, I guess, it's a kind of odd question, but it kind of ties in with this. Do you think, like, see, with like the freestyle football and being able to busk, do you think you kind of wanted like a fame, or you wanted something like that that kind of put you into this? Does that make sense? I don't quite know exactly how I'm trying to ask this, but like, do you think that was
What
something?
attention?
Yeah, yeah. Do you think you maybe wanted some of that before?
Yeah, probably, probably. I it's not even a probably. It's most definitely that was what was going on. But the hard thing about that is like that's so subconscious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you don't know that's what you're doing at the time. Like I can see through it now, but yeah, that's what I would have probably been doing. I think more so freestyle when I was busking and stuff. I don't think I was wanting attention because like I was wanting money.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
was wanting.
yeah.
Uh, like I actually hated like people try to talk to me after. I'd be like, "Fuck off, give me money or don't talk to me."
Get your
I
50p
was
in
trying
there.
to go on I was trying to go on holiday and stuff with the money. Um, with social media, I think when I done freestyle, I was definitely looking for attention. Um, then when it came to social media, I think I think it was less to do with attention in terms of being famous, and more to do with I assumed more following meant more money,
Yeah.
and more money would have made me feel worthy. Rather, I didn't really I didn't really get it. I actually didn't like when people came up to me in person and said, "Oh, I seen your videos," or whatever. I didn't get anything out of that, but I was obviously desperate to like my self worth was probably on the floor, and I assumed more money would fix that. So I was like more following will equal more money, which was wrong. But so you're definitely right, but I don't think it was. I think it was less so to do with fame and like that sort of thing, and more to do with trying to like move out of the house,
Yeah, yeah.
and I definitely had low self worth, definitely.
Okay. We can kind of come back to that because I feel like I cut you off a little bit there when we were talking about like the worst things in the industry and it going like big focus on fat loss and aesthetic. Do you feel that's... And again, I'm kind of asked, like, not that it's wrong, but do you think what's happening is, like you're saying, you could show someone how to grow an account. Do you think the wrong people are seeing those things and then that's influencing, say, even like beginners or intermediate sort of people?
Well, this is the problem. I don't think you can fix it because the algorithm is based off of human nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't think you can fix it, because if that wasn't what humans wanted, then it wouldn't get loads of views. It wouldn't get millions of views. So people want to see this stuff, or they don't want to see it so much that they're watching it.
Yeah.
That like watching a car crash. So that's how that's why you need, like, the more I learn about marketing, it's saying what you really, really, really believe with no fucks given, and that's how you attract the clients you want to work with. So the more and more people I piss off, the better my business goes. So it's like, pick your poison. I'm constantly, like, every now and then getting a bit of anxiety because I'm having these people like giving me shit or whatever, but at the same time my clients have the best relationship ever with them. They don't like worship me like they maybe did when I made all the fat loss content.
Yeah.
They just see me as like the sounding board that's helping them. Does that make sense? Whereas I used to feel like when I had loads of followers and people join me, like I was seen as this, I was above them. Whereas now I'm not above them, and I'm just someone that's like a sounding board. Same way when I had a therapist, he didn't remotely treat me like he was above me. I didn't treat him like he was above me. He was just a sounding board for me to help me through my problems. So, like, I don't think we can like fix the industry, because we would need, it's a cultural problem. It's one that's been going on for years and years, and it's it's cultural. You're talking, it's cultural. It's more to do with politics and culture than it is to do with the industry itself. The industry is off the back of culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you
like we're a very materialistic country?
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that's like a rabbit hole we could definitely fall down, because you'll have experienced unreal levels and be able to see incredible amounts of like instant gratification that people want, and that like instant dopamine, and almost that like, let's call it like, I don't know, fake dopamine, faking. Like, do you know what I'm saying as well? Because again, you're a big name on social, like you're a big account on social medias. You'll have seen how people were just like drawn to it, and the stuff that you were posting in the past. You understood it to get that human nature side of it as well, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, it's addicting as well. The growing thing, even on a, not even thinking about, because most of the growing I done would have been in lockdown, so I wasn't exactly like going out and knowing if it was having an effect on anyone or that, because I wasn't doing anything. But it's just addicting on your phone. It's like playing a game.
Yeah, and
that's
like,
all it's like.
It's
like prestiging in Call of Duty. That's what it's like.
That's exactly how I've always seen it. But again, I've always just tried to stay like authentic to myself. Like I even paid a guy once. I remember being like, right, if I get 10,000 followers, like I'll be able to like blow up. Business will be way busier. And I paid him, and I started like looking through it, and he was like, "You need to start saying this," and I was like, "But that's not true." And then he was like, "But that's how you grow." And I was like, I really don't want to lie to people. I'd rather like my content shite. People don't want to be on their phones, and then they go get maybe like an extra couple thousand steps. You know, like I always felt like that, but I did see it as like a game of growth. And you used like the word addictive, and I'm not going to go into addiction or anything like that, but like, was it like, all right, how can I get more today? How can I grow more? Like, is that what it started to get like?
Yeah, definitely. Because all my mates were sort of doing it. So like, what my best mate, his name's Michael. He's called Mitch Food and Fitness on Instagram. He does recipes, and he's balls deep still in that trap, but not growing anymore. But like, he can't really get out of it. But he admits it. Like, he does get a lot of like actual validation from it. So I think that's why he struggles to come off it. But I know him from, so I moved in with him in Australia, and we both decided we were going to become PTs. So I know him from before.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm still like really good mates with him. But yeah, like I would be talking about it to friends and stuff. So that's what because it was lockdown as well. I had fuck all else to do. So I was just thinking, I'll just keep growing this because I don't know when it will stop. Like I don't know when if the algorithm's going to change or whatever, and then I'll just make the most of it now. And then I kept on like trying to spread it across platforms. So I kept trying to build an email list and stuff. Because I'd been on social media before. Everyone that keeps on going, oh, it's killing my reach or whatever. It's just social media. It just changes. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Your videos are just shit. But yeah, like I just seen it as I'll just try and make, what's that stupid saying? Make hay whilst the sun shines.
Yeah.
Like just try to keep growing it until it stops. And then I was also doing it. So when I was growing on TikTok, I didn't have access to it on my phone. So I was terrified about that because it was linked to my Australian number. There was a verification code I couldn't get in, so I just used to upload on my laptop. I couldn't even reply to comments or anything, so I was just logged in on like my Google, and then one day it just logged me out, and I'd built my full business off of that. So I was genuinely just terrified every single day that I wasn't going to be able to go on it. And it was all I sort of had because I hadn't worked in person yet or whatever. So there was a lot of that going on. There was just a lot of anxiety of starting a business and like being terrified it's not going to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%.
So I was just like, this is sort of working. I don't know what I mean by working. Like I'm gaining followers and people are inquiring. So I was more acting out of anxiety, I would say.
Yeah. I get like that's one of the odd feelings when you start a business, though, isn't it? Like you're constantly like, there's just so much like anxiety attached to it. I actually think
Yeah, because you don't know what you're doing.
none.
Just
No.
like no idea. I'm getting followers. Don't know if I'll get me clients. Let's keep going.
Just stabbing in the dark. Just let's go.
Yeah, exactly. You're just throwing shit at a wall, aren't you?
So this might be a bit of a lame question, right? But who's like the most famous person that's followed you? Because to have that sort of following, surely you've had a couple names.
I don't even think so. I don't even think. Nah, honestly, I
No?
on TikTok, I can't really think. Like I've had famous people in the fitness industry follow me, but no real famous people. Michael gets Vicky Patterson's obsessed with him. She tries to invite him to her events to cook and all that for him. But I don't think I've really had. I don't think I've really had famous people. Mine's was all like 40-year-old fucking Sharons from Easter House and shit. Like
They're all celebs.
I had no real celebs at all. I meant more celebs when I done the freestyle stuff.
Oh really? That's
Yeah, because I was at football event.
Yeah.
At football events all the time and all, like Gary Lineker and shit. So I met way more doing that actually.
That's pretty cool, mate. There's been a bunch of things that you've touched on that I'm going to kind of try and like circle back round to and ask some questions about. You mentioned therapy. Was there like, and I don't know, like, if it's uncomfortable, just say like, what was it that kind of pushed you towards that? And you also mentioned like self-worth, and you've also mentioned like when you were younger, you were kind of like overweight. Do you think they were all? And maybe I'm a prick for just assuming this here, but like, do you think? Is there like a link, or is there a
Yeah, everything's linked. Absolutely all of it's linked. So I was always quite fine. I've always been blunt. I've always just kind of said what I thought about things. Even when I was getting followers and all that, I was still calling stuff out. I would still like make videos about, oh, I'd done this and it was wrong or whatever. I've always been like that. I think that's just like my dad's very like that as well. So I've never been worried about saying what I think, and I've never not believed in myself that if anything, I've been delusional about like how good I was at football and stuff because I was never going to make it, and I thought I would. So I've never struggled with those sort of things. It was always relationships. Every time I got in a relationship, that I realised I had problems. The first one I got in, it only lasted like 5 months or whatever, but like 2 months in, I was just a ball of anxiety like all the time. And looking back, she was just basically like giving me like a lot at the start and then very little.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why is it not like the start? Do you know? And it just like it ruined me for like a year and a half before I went to Australia. And then when I went to Australia or whatever, I was let's just say having a good time, going out quite a lot. Yeah. And I think honestly ever since then, I got in maybe like 2 other relationships or like situationships or whatever the TikTok phrase is for it now. And I just would never really go near people that I would actually like, or I would be searching for someone that really like overly liked me and I wasn't as bothered about, so that I couldn't get hurt again. And then like even if I did go near someone that there was a chance with, or that they were nice and I liked them, I would just like have ridiculous amounts of anxiety, and nobody would ever know that. Like they'll know about it if they've listened to my content or podcast or whatever. But if you met me, you wouldn't have thought that, if you know what I mean. Yeah. You'd just be like, he's a confident guy. Because everyone I told about therapy, like some of my mates were like, "Why are you going to therapy?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And you're like, you don't suffer. And I was like, "You've no idea then." Yeah. I'm trying to tell you that. I'm trying to tell you I do, like a lot.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm 28 and I've never lasted longer than 5 months in a relationship. There's a problem in it.
Yeah, it's like you actually mentioned it when we were like chatting back and forth, that you're happy to speak about it and stuff. And I've actually got my first consultation tomorrow with a therapist.
Have you never been for it? I assumed you had.
No. Like I spoke with a lot of psychologists. I was really fortunate to speak with psychologists. And they've not like taken me for sessions, but if I ask a question, I can get an answer and I can kind of think about it my own way. And I've read a lot and I've listened to a lot of stuff, but I've never actually just gone to it and made it about myself. And it's like,
why?
On you go.
It sounds like you've done the. That's what I was like. I got to the point where I knew I needed it just by reading books, and it's kind of like, it's like PTing, like. A lot of people that come to me now are actually in the spot where they know they should go to the gym. I don't need to force them to go to the gym. They just don't know how to learn in there. Even if I gave them the program, without my help, they would learn 5 times slower than me just giving them form tips and little tips and stuff like that. It's pretty much just like that. When I first went to my therapist, I was like, look, I know that I have problems in relationships. I know that it's due to like how I think about myself and my thoughts, and I know it's gonna come from my mum because she's fucking mental. And I was like, I just don't know how to fix it. Like I know all the problems. I know exactly. Like I know. Obviously, they go into little things and they brings up things you forgot about, and you're like, oh yeah, forgot about that.
Ah shit.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. But I knew, like, you just don't know how to fix it, because how are you meant to know that when you don't understand psychology? And my therapist is hands down one of the smartest people I've ever met, and he honestly, he's like impacted me way more than like the gym would have, like way more.
Yeah. When we come off, I'm going to get some details to find out who that is, because it'd be great to maybe reach out to them.
He was my podcast producer.
Oh really?
Yeah, so he runs like a podcast studio, sits in the corner, and then uses the same studio to do therapy sessions.
That's pretty cool. That is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a legend. So I'd spoke to him like loads before. Yeah.
It's like, what happened with your mum and that? Is that something that you would want to talk about just now, or is that something that you would rather direct other people to?
I've made full podcasts about it, but I wouldn't direct them to it, because that's one way to have a terrible day, is listening to me talk about my childhood. Not that it's like I hate X Factor stories and stuff like that. Like, anyone that's grown up in like council estates and stuff like that, like most people have got some sort of one bad like parent that's a bit fucked up or whatever. So I hate like talking about these things and trying to make like all my stories worse than yours or whatever. It just is what it is. But yeah, mum, like right now, I've blocked my mum. I'm pretty sure she's in hospital she has like mental health breakdowns and pure delusions and stuff. I tried to get her actually diagnosed, but she somehow manages to, if the doctor comes across them or whatever, she somehow manages to put it on her face and makes it out as if she's fine. So she's always had like bad rheumatoid arthritis. I was an only child and my mum and dad broke up when I was 4. And then I moved in with my mum. My mum kind of used me a good bit as a weapon against my dad. And that there was a lot of traits in me that my dad has. So I reckon that's a lot to do with it. So like her hatred for my dad would then kind of move on to me. So she would just gaslight the life out of me. She would, and like my therapy was just trying to understand my childhood because my mum never hit me or anything. She just the biggest mind game, like just the most bizarre mind games ever. So like some of it's not funny, but it is funny. So like I'm a massive Celtic fan, and when I was like 10, my mum got me. Do you know much about football?
A little bit, not loads though.
Right. So when I was 10, like my room would have been full of Celtic stuff. I'd have had Henrik Larsson covers and stuff like that. I'm not so much a big Celtic fan now, but like just like I was a big Celtic fan, right? And Barry Ferguson was the captain of Rangers. And my mum's side of the family are all from a place called Lark Hall, which is basically mental Protestants and really, really Rangers. But they're all from there. So my auntie worked in a cafe that Barry Ferguson, the captain of Rangers, used to go in. And they both decided it was a good idea to get me his autobiography and get it signed by him and give me that for Christmas. So like my mum would do stuff like that. I would open it and be obviously like I used to talk to my mum pretty badly because I honestly think that's half the reason I wasn't fucked, because she started doing all this when I was like 10 rather than like 6, 7, 8. So at 10, like, because I've read a lot about these sort of things, like the younger it happens to you when your brain's still developing, the worse it tends to be. So I was pretty lucky, like all of the really bad stuff was happening more when I was older and I stuck up for myself. So like I'd have probably told her to fuck off, and my dad had to come and pick me up because I would be sitting in like the local park kicking a ball about by myself and crying basically. But she would just do random stuff like that to me. She would just play the most ridiculous mind games. She would lock me out of the house and stuff. And because you're an only child, everyone would be like, oh, your mum's so friendly, because you would come round and she'd cook you lasagna and all that. But as soon as you leave the house, my mum's just doing the most bizarre. I'll tell you one of them, just so you can have like how hard it is to process this when you get older, because I would always just be like, oh, my mum's got mental health issues, it's not her fault, and I would always just stick up for her. And when I got older, like past 18, I would just feel so bad for the way I treated her, or the way when actually I was just sticking up for myself. But you start gaslighting yourself and being like, oh my god, I was so bad to my mum, maybe I made her like that or whatever. But like maybe when I was like 13 or 14 or whatever, say the Euros was on and Ronaldo would be playing, and my mum would just turn around to me whilst Ronaldo's on the TV or he's just been on it and just go, is Cristiano Ronaldo black? And I would have Ronaldo posters on my wall, and I'd be like, what do you mean he's black? Is he black? And she's like, oh, I'm just asking a question. I'd be like, what do you mean you're just asking a question? She'd be like, I'm just asking, like no need to get antsy about it. And I was like, but you know the answer. And then she'd be like, oh, you're just like your father, you're just so angry all the time. So just bizarre conversations. So you're just getting gaslit all the time. So it took me a long time. I just had massive trust issues basically from that. Like I didn't trust women because of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
pretty grim, isn't it? But at least I never got beat or anything. But like,
yeah, I think you done like the typical man thing at the start of that of like oh, it's not that bad. There's other people that've got like, do you know what I mean? Like us blokes are always trying to like I'm like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it could be worse. It could be worse. Like what? So there'll be like, and that's the big thing with this. Like the reason I started this podcast is I'm from a small town, but a lot of young men have like taken their own lives. Like
Where are you from?
a place called Arbroath. So do you know where
Right,
Dundee
okay.
is? Have you ever heard of
Yeah,
Dundee?
you're above Edinburgh, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Above Edinburgh, above. Yeah, I know where it is.
yeah. You've maybe had an Arbroath smoky. If not, I'll get some down to you
Maybe.
sometime. It's a kind of fish that gets smoked in a barrel. It's unbelievable. But yeah, we're known for that. The
Right.
Declaration of Independence was signed here as well. We got an abbey for it.
Right.
But yeah, this small town, like for a little spell there was this like young lad taking his own life, and I wanted it to be that like I wanted to try and make a podcast that we would have conversations like this, like guys that are successful, healthy, looking after themselves. Have gone through maybe like a bit of turmoil, a bit of rough spot, just to fucking play it down here, Thomas. But like, life's been hard, and like, could you talk a bit about like what were the steps, or like how did you manage to get yourself to get the help, so that you just didn't have to like put up with this or like live. Just for if there is anybody listening that like has had a hard life like you, because again, you've done the typical man thing of being like, oh, people have had it worse. And other guys will think the same thing, but like if something's hard for you, it's fucking hard for you. Like that's the be all end all.
It's so hard, like what? Because you, I don't think most of us are conscious about this. Because I don't know about you, but I look at most PTs and like mine's came out and like I could have easily got addicted to work a little bit as well, getting my self worth from how much I could work or how well business was going or whatever. So, lots of people will tell you lots of people will praise you for things like that, and then people get addicted to the gym and they'll praise them for that. So a lot of people aren't even conscious because they're doing quote unquote healthy things or what we think is healthy. So if someone's coping mechanism is drugs and alcohol, people straight away are like, you've got a problem. But when it's something so it's hard. The first step is like even just asking yourself the question. But the first time I really realised I had something I had to address, because I'd done loads of stuff since I lost weight when I was younger, and that helped me a bit, but did it really help? It just probably made people think I didn't have something to work on and never addressed any of the root issues, and then I was still scared about my weight for a long, long time. But the first time I was be a year into PTing, I had, so I'd be 26. There was a book called Lost Connections. Now this guy is a journalist. I really liked the book, but he's going down this. He's made a whole book about his Ozempic and stuff. So I would maybe only read this book. Very good, and there's a whole agenda in the book against drugs for depression and anxiety. So it's biased as fuck. Right, so there's 10 hours, it's a 10-hour audiobook. First 2 hours I deliberately like listened to it but was very skeptical. So if you're going to listen to it, please be skeptical as fuck about all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Because I always read stuff like that and I'm like, man, what is this guy's agenda? Or he just wants to sell his book. This is all, it's almost like, you know, that Seaspiracy documentary and the vegan one they made.
Yep.
I hear stuff like that and I'm like, oh, I know what you're doing. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But it was actually really good. It was just like, it was more about how we're isolating ourselves from each other all the time with culture, basically materialistic things, and how capitalism is making us disassociate from the way we used to live, where it would be tribal, and that's why we are having more depression and stuff like that. And a lot of it's to do with the way we live and the way we choose to live, which is I think that's bang on the money. If I'm being honest, I think that's pretty true. But he was then giving examples of like childhood trauma and stuff, and I spoke about this when I done the podcast, so sometimes I tear up when I talk about this, which makes you understand how I knew that I had to go to therapy. But I just got this memory in my head and it was almost like PTSD. Like it was that my therapist, that's what he described it as. He was like, you don't maybe quite have PTSD. He did describe it as that one or two times, but he's like, it's PTSD like symptoms, and I agree with him, and I've had talked to other therapists, like labeling stuff can often make it worse, and like, because that makes it sound like you can't recover from that.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's a symptom rather than like you have this label. But what, I can't remember what it said, what the book said, but I got this vivid memory of being locked out of the house, and so what had happened was, like, maybe a month before, I'm like 11 or 12, my mum had went on a date, and this guy had came back, and they were definitely steaming, but he came back and he basically like cornered me and screamed at me. Maybe I was quite a wee cheeky prick, as you can imagine. I don't know if I did say something cheeky, and maybe I wouldn't have swore at him or anything, but I'd have maybe made about Rangers or something. Like, I don't think I'd have been cheeky, but I'd have maybe made a sarcastic comment. That's quite, like,
Yeah.
I'm like that. I've always been like that. And he didn't take it very well, and he cornered me. He didn't hit me, and he didn't actually go to hit me, but gave me all the signs that that could happen, right?
Yeah.
So obviously shat myself. My mum was like, I'm never going to see him again. I was terrified, pretty traumatized by the whole thing. And then I'd be playing football like a month later, tried to get in the house, tried to get in the front door, and the house we had, like, you couldn't, the only bit you could see in the front was the front door. So like our garage was connected to the other bit. We had like this old house, and so I couldn't see in at all. I could only see in the hall. So I went round the back, and round the back you can see everywhere. There was like a garden full door, a window, then the kitchen window, and then all the bedrooms, so you could see in from the back. So I tried to open the back door, couldn't get in, looked in, and he was sitting on the couch. And then my mum came in and she just shut all the curtains on me. And I had to go and stay at my auntie's. Like, I'm like 11, I had to walk like 10 minutes to my auntie's and just stay at her house. Nobody told me what was happening. And then I would have just came back, maybe my mum. I can't remember the rest of it, but I'd have just maybe came back. And I remember stuff like that happening. And I'd have just not spoke to her for 2 weeks. I'd have just made, I'd have made plain pasta. I'd ate that every day. Like 100 massive bowls, mate, huge bowls. 150 grams of like plain pasta, that's all I knew how to make. And I'd have just not spoke to her. But like that, so that, I hadn't thought about that. Because you like, a lot of proper trauma, you don't remember it, or it's like stored away somewhere, and it will come back. But then for the next like 2 years, every now and then little things would come back, and I would just start crying, like walking down the street. And I was doing well work wise, loads of friends. I wouldn't say I'd had anxiety, and really bad anxiety before. I didn't have any of that, but the problems would always still come up if I went near women. But I just knew that had to be addressed.
Yeah. And like, for people that are listening, like, what was it that, like, you feel like the key things of therapy that like helped you either like through that, to understand it, I don't know how, because I don't know how it works.
You pretty much, like, not, the thing about therapy is I try to give people a good understanding of it before they do it, because just like PTing, nothing good is going to happen for 3 or 4 months. In fact, unlike PTing, people can hit PB straight away. You ain't hitting any PBs in therapy, man.
No.
Like, it's not fun. But like, you might have, if you get a really good therapist, a lot of it's you're just building a relationship at the start, and they just try to have a general understanding before it does get quite grim. But I think it just gets you to understand why you've done all the things you've done.
Yeah.
Because you'll beat yourself up for it. Like, I remember, like, when I was like 20, I'd have stormed out of like Nando's in Hamilton because my mum would have said something cheeky to me, and then I'd have bet myself up for it for like a year and a half. But then you understand, you go, no, that was a perfectly normal reaction for your mum being an arsehole.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And like, even though that you can logically understand that, that's not emotionally how you've processed it. So you just start to understand yourself a lot more. And some of the, and like, he done one session on with me where he just fully explained what anxiety was, like how it manifests and how it actually works. And that was one of the best sessions I've ever had, because I was always terrified of. I had it for after my first breakup. I had it for like really bad anxiety for like a year. Like I couldn't really sleep. I constantly was obsessed with my breathing and stuff. I couldn't take like a deep breath, like where you can feel it go in. I couldn't do that for like a year, so I used to be like hyper obsessed with my breathing. Again, if you met me, you'd be like, "Guy's got it together. he's fine." But I was always terrified of that happening to me again. I think that's mostly why I never went near women. I was like, I genuinely can't have that happen to me again. I would rather be single, because I was fine when I was single. So he done that full session where he explained it's just fight or flight. The problem is when it, like, and he was like, you need that response. The same response you get from that breakup, and then going near women is the same physiological response as you would get if you were faced with a tiger in front of you and you had to run. The problem is yours is misfiring and you're getting it for the wrong reasons because of how you've processed things in the past. You said it a lot better than that, and like broke it down in more detail. But I think that when you've not been for therapy, I think that's the simplest I can kind of say it.
Yeah.
And not you need, because obviously what I'm saying, it won't resonate with people unless their situation was quite similar to mine.
Yeah.
So you need to go break down how you've processed things.
Yeah. No, do you know what, mate? I honestly, like, I really, really do appreciate you, like, talking about that, because, like, the point that you keep saying is, like people would think I've got my shit together. Like, I seemed happy. I had pals. Like, I was popular. Business and work was going all right. Like, and I do hope that if there are people listening, like, it's okay to be in those situations of, like, things seeming right, or like what society perceives as like a good life, and still not to feel great. And, like, I guess, like, the advice you're giving there, like, it's a great, and I do honestly, Gavin, I really do appreciate you opening up and talking about that sort of stuff. And I hope that people, if someone does feel that way, or they feel down, or they feel that something isn't right, like, they can take a leaf out of Gavin's book and go and try and speak to someone. There is a couple more personal training stuff. Unless there's more, Gavin, that you want to talk about here, like any advice or anything.
I think I always talk about therapy. I genuinely think it's hands down the best thing. That and quitting drinking, I done those at the same time. Two of the biggest things I've ever done. And I try to say to people more, although the gym has helped me, that stuff way more. Yeah.
Actually, that's something then, mate, I know we've been on for an hour and I don't want to keep you all night, but, mate, I've got many...
I've got another, like, 20-25 minutes if you want to. I don't...
Mate, honestly, I'm going to have to try and convince you to come back on another time to talk about other things, because I'd love to talk about the booze thing. I'm obsessed with Scottish culture and the booze culture. I'm obsessed with it because it fascinates me. You'll be the same as me. I've had heaps of clients that can't make progress, skip sessions, aren't happy, and I'll say to them, what do you do all weekend? I just booze, I just go out a few drinks Friday, get up Saturday afternoon, football, a few drinks. And I'll say, like, I actually think it's maybe the booze that's causing this. And the way that they look at me, it's like I've got two heads. They're like, nah, that's the best part of my week. And, like, do you want to touch a little bit on why, like, you stopped drinking? Because, mate, I think we could do an hour talking about this.
Well, I would be one of those people, like, I'd have been the toxic person trying to get people to drink, like, up until 24, 25. And then when I hit 25, I think I stopped because... But I do think, like, I was probably using that to cope with things a wee bit, but then shifted that to work, and I overcompensated with work. Even though I was building a business, I was still working too much, and I was too obsessed with it. But it meant that any drinking I done meant I couldn't work.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go to the gym and stuff. So that's why I really started to not like it. But also I realised that, like, I didn't. This is going to sound weird, right? But I after I got 23 and I got the freestyle stuff out of the way, I didn't really struggle as much with women. I honestly think that was really repelling women away from me. And as soon as I stopped, I could get a date, right?
Yeah.
And I started working in a hospital, and I was in Australia, and I had a Glaswegian accent, and it was novel, right? So I didn't really. That was also like kind of like uni, right? So that was like my uni phase. So it's not just like that I'd have maybe got more confident or whatever. I'm also in an environment where people are just like partying and getting with each other and all that. So I assumed because I maybe wasn't as like single or having as long dry spells that I was more confident with women. But what I also didn't realise is I was fucked all the time. So that was where a lot of my confidence was coming from. Because I tried to go on a few sober dates, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? Why can't I speak to this person? So when I stopped drinking, I started going to therapy at the same time, and I started going on a lot of sober dates. So I realised a lot of my confidence had actually came from drinking. I wasn't like the loudest person in the room, but I was making jokes and stuff all the time, but I always just assumed I was like really extroverted, but actually I was just in drinking situations all the time. So it was a real fucking humbling experience to like go on loads and loads of dates whilst doing therapy, whilst not drinking. And I've got a journal from that time, because I'd basically moved back to Australia. I'd done 2 years before, and this is start of 2023, so not that long ago. And I moved back for 6 months, and I think because I was away from Scotland, I went, I'm gonna do this whole going on loads of dates and not drinking thing, so that for fear of not being judged if I'd done it back home.
Yeah. Is there so that, and I think that's, I always toy with the idea of quitting booze, and I go like quite long spells. But I find that I love it, and now that the way that you've just described that there, I think it's maybe because it does distract me from work. It's like the only time where I feel like I'm not working. So that's just made me think.
But that can be a positive.
Yeah.
Like genuinely. So some people 3 pints. I'll have clients that sometimes do have 3 pints. They're maybe like stressful jobs or whatever, and it genuinely is a net positive. Binge drinking, I never really, unless you do it like once a year and it's a wedding or whatever. Binge drinking very, very rarely is a positive.
Yeah.
But I don't think having a few pints is always a negative. Just for me, the way I came at it, it was definitely a negative. I'm
total lightweight, and I'm someone that's like, I can't really do like 2 or 3. Once I've had them, it's like party tambo comes out. You know what I mean? Like I just turn into someone else.
But party tambo sounds like the most choked thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
Party.
I just made it up there as well.
Alright. I thought you were like notorious around our bro.
Nah.
Oh, you don't want to pop into party tambo on a Saturday.
Imagine. Oh, he's on the pints, big party tambo's it. I guess like you've mentioned Australia a couple of times, and this will be like the second last question. What are some of like the biggest cultural differences you notice between like Scotland and Australia?
Oh, well, Australians have this thing, right, where they think they're as harsh as like people from Scotland or Ireland. Absolute fallacy. Like as soon as they went out with like my Glaswegian mates, they'd be like, "Oh my god, you guys are so harsh." Do you know what I mean? Like they just because you throw the word "cunt" in a sentence doesn't mean you're actually like, do you know? Like, we are brutal, like actually brutal. So I always used to laugh, and I was like, "Man, you have no idea. You're all sitting here trying to be woke as fuck. Like, shut up. You're talking utter shit." But I think the main differences was more because you very much, especially the first time I went over, I probably met more Australians than most people that go over because I worked in hospital. So I had a lot of friends, but like loads of them go over, especially the Irish, and don't make any other mates. They don't even go outside. Their full town moves over there.
Yeah.
and they just hang about with their mates from home. So they experience nothing different. They're just like in Ireland in the sun. Um, cultural differences. It's not even to do with Australia, because Australians can be very materialistic and stuff. I think the differences is when you hang about with people from back home in Australia, you basically get paid better for the same work. So I'm bartending, I could actually like live in a share house and save like 200 quid a week and still like have a good time. But also you become less materialistic because you're away from all your mates back home, and you're very much just trying to make everyone kind of knows they're on a visa and they might have to leave. So the cultural difference isn't so much Australians that I noticed, it's you just make a lot better use of the time in terms of having fun and relaxing. Like everyone sort of going round. Oh, I don't know about you. When's the last time you just go around your mates for dinner? You do that every night in Australia.
Yeah.
Like you're just hanging about with people, having a laugh all the time. You're just really good mates with people, and you form genuine, really good relationships with people really quickly. So it's just a lot more sociable. But the Aussies, like they have a drinking culture as well. They have a pretty materialistic culture as well. So you don't go over there and go like things are mad different. You just live different in the same culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Okay, Gavin, I do know I'm going to try and come off now, right? So I ask everybody this at the end of the podcast, right? Because I am obsessed with living a good life. I'm obsessed with like how I can be the best man I possibly can. And this might put you on the spot a little bit, but like, what do you think are some of the traits that make for a good man?
Oh, honesty. Just honesty, like just brutal honesty with yourself and with other people. That was instilled in me by his name's Paul, by the way, right? Instilled in me a bit by my therapist, because he made me navigate a few conversations where I was never a liar, but I'd maybe avoided saying things that I should have said to like previous girlfriends and stuff, rather than lie about things. And like me and my current girlfriend I've been with for like, cause say current girlfriend as if I'm gonna have another one. Hopefully this is, I really like, I think this is my person, right?
That's class.
Her name's Aoife, but we always just kind of have the tough conversations, and I've said to her from the start, like I'll just tell her like, oh, like if you've slept with it, if one of us have slept with someone and we're going to be in their company, like go like openly say right now. Not that comes up all the time, but you know what I mean. Like, or like my first girlfriend, she asked me one time, have you I had two friends that were girls, and she was like, have you been with any of them? And I'd kissed them both when I was like 15. You know when you when you kiss everyone at a party, right? So I told her about the first one, and then she was raging about it, and then I decided not to tell her about the second one because she didn't even ask. She didn't actually ask. She was just so angry about the first one, and I went, let's just let her get angry about that, not tell her about the second one. But I've deliberately told her about, because Paul kind of went like that, but that's her problem. He was like, do you think it's a problem that you kissed those two girls on like they're still in your friend groups? And I was like, absolutely not. She had nothing to worry about. And he's like, well, you need to have enough self-belief that you know that's the case. So more just being honest in business, being honest with clients. Honesty I think's the best thing. It's really, really hard. It's harder said than done, but that's why I feel like it's something you've got to do, because most people don't.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's a brilliant answer.
Most men don't.
No, definitely don't. They just keep their mouth shut, and sometimes not saying anything.
Even if they're not lying, they're just they are still lying.
Yeah,
like I was lying.
Yeah,
she was already pissed. Trying to carry the fucking firing range.
Right, Gavin, we'll end that there. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and honestly, we're similar on a lot of levels, but we'll maybe get another podcast sometime. There's a bunch of stuff I've still got written down here that I would love to chat about. I really appreciate your time as well, and thanks very much for opening up.
No worries.
I'm hoping someone gets inspired or motivated or does something about themselves, looks after themselves. I hope people can now sometimes see some of the ways that social media is not what it's portrayed as, and genuinely, I'll link all of Gavin's social media. I actually tagged him in my most recent post, so go have a look. Go have a look at his stuff. Listen to him. And again, honestly, mate, like, just pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you very much. That was a good chat.
Right, I'm gonna stop this. It won't kick you out, and then we'll have a quick chat, and then I'll get you off. Right.
No worries.